Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the participants joining us across India and beyond. We, the students at People's University, are proud to present this special webinar driven entirely by the students and for the students. On the behalf of our organizing team at Center for Scientific Research and Development, People's University, Bhopal, I warmly welcome you to the 11th session of BioConnect webinar series, a unique for the students and by the students in. My name is Shubham Sharma, and I am proud to tell you that I am a student of BTech Biotechnology and a member of this webinar organizing committee. It is a great honor for me to serve as the MC for today's session. Today's webinar focuses on timely and thought-provoking theme, bioethics in healthcare research. We are deeply honored to welcome the eminent guests and leaders joining us today. A very special welcome to Honorable Vice Chancellor, People's University, Professor Dr. Harish Rao, our distinguished speaker, Dr. Viji Vijayan, Professor Dr. Subhas J. Bore, our mentor and head of the Center for Scientific Research and Development, People's University, and Mr. Nishchal Singh Rathore, chairperson of this organizing committee of this program. To formally inaugurate today's session, it is my honor to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Harish Rao, to deliver the opening remarks. Sir, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Shubham Sharma. Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to join you for the 11th edition of the BioConnect webinar series, a remarkable initiative of the Center for Scientific Research and Development at University of Bhopal. Today's session is especially meaningful because it reflects the spirit of our team for the students, by the students. I'm proud to see our students taking active leadership in envisioning, planning, and executing academic events that foster learning, curiosity, and global engagement. At the heart of this session is a topic of great relevance and urgency, bioethics in healthcare research. As the world becomes more interconnected and healthcare research becomes increasingly dependent on digital technology, artificial intelligence, and cross-border collaboration, the ethical dimension of this work have never been more important. Bioethics is not merely a subject, it is a guiding framework that shapes responsible innovation, protects human dignity, and safeguards trust in science. I'm delighted to welcome today's distinguished speaker, Dr. Viji Vijayan, Human Factor and Biorisk Management Consultant at Praxis Biorisk Systems, Singapore, and adjunct Associate Professor at Duke National University of Singapore Medical School, Singapore. Dr. Viji brings a rich blend of international experience, deep expertise, and a uniquely human-centered perspective on ethical and safe research practices. We are truly honored to have her with us. I also wish to congratulate the dedicated team of 6 BTech Biotechnology students who have organized today's webinar with exemplary professionalism. Your initiative, teamwork, and commitment embody the values of People's University. You stand as an inspiring example of what student-led academic leadership can achieve. This webinar provides a wonderful opportunity for all of us, students, faculty, and professionals, to deepen our understanding of ethical challenges in healthcare research, explore global perspectives, and reflect on how we can collectively promote responsible science. I also acknowledge the guidance of Professor Dr. Subhas J. Bore, Head of the Center for Scientific Research and Development, whose mentorship and vision have helped nurture this platform for academic and societal engagement. I encourage all participants to actively engage, ask meaningful questions, and make the most of this session. With your enthusiasm and participation, BioConnect continues to grow into a powerful platform that connects minds across borders. With these words, I once again welcome you all to this exciting session and wish the organizers, participants, a very fruitful and enriching experience. Now I hand it over to our MC, Mr. Shubham Sharma. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your motivating words. Your continued support to student-driven academic initiative is deeply appreciated. Now I invite the chairperson of organizing committee, Mr. Nishchal Singh Rathore, to say a few words. Nishchal, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Shubham. Good afternoon, everyone. Our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Viji Vijayan, Honorable Vice Chancellor of People's University, Professor Dr. Harish Rao, our respected mentor, Professor Dr. Subhash Bore, respected faculty members, participants, and my dear fellow students. I extend a very warm welcome to you all to this webinar session. My name is Nishchal Singh Rathore, and I am proud to tell you that I am a BTech Biotechnology student at People's University. And I am truly honored to serve as the chairperson of the organizing committee for this program. On behalf of organizing committee, I am delighted to welcome you all to this thought-provoking webinar titled Bioethics in Healthcare Research. This session will explore the importance of ethics. Bioethics has become increasingly important because history has shown the dangers of ignoring ethics. Unethical experiments in the past hurt many people and taught us to make strong rules to protect everyone involved in research. Nowadays, ethics committees at institutions review every research plan to ensure participants are safe and treated with respect. We are fortunate to have a distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Viji Vijayan, to share her thoughts and insight with us on this important subject. With these words, I thank you all once again for being with us today. Let us look forward to an inspiring and insightful session ahead. Now, I hand it over to our MC, Mr. Shubham. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much,
Mr.
Mr.
Nishchal,
Nishchal.
for your encouraging words and welcoming remarks. Fellow students and esteemed participants, it is now time to begin the core session. To take it further, now I invite moderator, Ms. Sanya Raju. Ms. Sanya, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Shubham. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all participants joining us from India and beyond. I am Sania Rajan, a second year BTech Biotechnology student at the People's University, Bhopal, India. It is my privilege to serve as your moderator for today's insightful session organized under the BioConnect webinar series for the students by the students, a remarkable initiative of the Center for Scientific Research and Development, People University, India. Today's session brings us to a highly relevant and timely topic, bioethics in healthcare research. It is my honor to introduce today's distinguished speaker, Dr. Viji Vijayan. Dr. Viji is a biorisk and human factors consultant based in Singapore, and her passion is to work with sharp and workers in laboratories to help them put into practice what they have learned about biosafety and biosecurity. Her motto is that safety is simply the way you work. She consults in the field of biorisk management for various organizations such as Health Security Partners USA, SCI LORE LLC USA, Griffon Scientific LLC USA, European Union CBR and Centers of Excellence, World Health Organization through their partner agencies, Global Affairs Canada, and World Bio hashtag PTE Ltd Singapore. She has a WSQ Advanced Certificate in Training and Assessment, which specializes in adult training methodologies, and a master's degree in Human Factors and System from Lund University in Sweden. These educational achievements, together with her vast worldwide expertise in biorisk management and related fields, has equipped her with a unique set of skills, awareness, and action. Today, she will be sharing her insights with us. With this brief introduction, I now have the great pleasure of inviting Dr. Viji Vijayan to deliver her talk. Dr. Viji Vijayan, over to you.
Thank you very much to all of you. Can you all hear me? Just to show a thumbs up will do. Okay. Now, this is very formal for me. Usually, I'm an easygoing person who just makes jokes and hopes that the learning will be fun because we all laugh together. And I hope I will be able to maintain the same light culture, light mood, at the same time learn, because if you become very serious, then I think learning becomes more stressful. I want to say a few things. I like very much this for the students, by the students. I've never heard this before. And I think it's amazing because it's you who are charting what you want to learn. Of course, I did tell Subhash I'm going to talk about bioethics, but still you you pick what you want to learn. Very impressive. And each of you, what you're studying is also very impressive. I know Tanya, right? Said something about me, but very briefly, let me say something, okay? I am a medical doctor, but I did not practice medicine because somehow I was not interested. And, originally I'm from India, and Indian people believe doctor and engineers are the only education. My father was of the same opinion, and he forged my signature and put the application to medical college. I got in, so I had no choice but to do it. I didn't like it much. And then I married a Singaporean who was a doctor and who practiced medicine, a surgeon, and I came here. Then I did microbiology, which is my passion. I love to study germs and bugs and what they do to people. And then I slowly moved into safety, lab safety, research safety, and I'm an auditor for biosafety level 3 labs, Singapore accredited auditor. So the biosafety level 3 labs are very highly specialized labs. India also has some. I have come to India to train also, in which you will work with the high risk pathogens. So that is what that's my background. Now, you said something about sharp end workers. Sharp end workers means people like you, people who actually do the work rather than the blunt end, who is a senior management, who sits in an air-conditioned office and doesn't know how work is done. That's the truth. And I am old enough to be able to say it as it is. So my passion is always about helping people to work safely, to understand the rules and regulations. Simply being safe is not enough. You have to be safe and productive, correct? So that's my passion. Now, why did I choose bioethics? When I don't know something about a topic, not enough, because it's not my primary topic, but it's something I want to get involved in, the best way is to give a talk. Because then you will go and read about it, and you will learn more, and you will think more. And when you ask me questions, I think I'll learn a lot more. And in every such webinar or in-person workshop that I do, I learn almost as much as you guys, because your questions are very insightful and they make me think. With that, I'm going to move into my first slide. So what I'm going to talk about, which I will just explain, I'm going to talk about 3 different things. I'm going to talk about human subject ethics, which means if you take a human being and do any experiments on them, whether it is for testing a drug or a vaccine, or even just asking questions, a questionnaire, asking them about their lifestyle, or any of these things, you need to get some special, okay, now I'll come back to this, okay? So
you're able to see, right?
Now I'm able to see. Can you all see also? Thumbs up?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so it means ethical, social behavior, and there's always legal issues. Because if you're doing any research with me and I get sick, then I have the right to sue you, right? I mean, everybody's out to make a quick buck in our world, and that's how it is. So we have to take not only the ethical issue and the social issue, but also the legal issue. You have to align the research with societal values. For example, if you're doing cross-country or cross-region research, you have to understand that in different regions, the culture is different. In some regions, the women may have to be dealt with differently. In that culture, maybe women are not allowed to make a decision for themselves, and so they may have to bring the man of the house along. If that's what it is, then as a researcher, it's best to work within those cultural norms rather than say, why aren't women given the right? That's what I must do. That's a different topic. And that's what you want to pursue, you take it up separately. But if you're doing biomedical research, then you need to understand the cultural restraints or cultural situations in each country. That's the cross-cultural, that's what I meant by societal values. Can we move to the next one? Okay. Traditionally, bioethics is to be known as medical ethics. It's to ensure that patients are treated properly. Now, we are looking at ethics in research, but even in clinical medicine, that means if I'm a doctor and I'm treating patient, there is ethics. And there are ethical principles about dying. I think only in Sweden you're allowed to decide that you want to end your life, and you can do it. In most other countries it's not allowed unless you do like something like you take out the life support. That's a different matter. But in Sweden you can actually choose to die. You can choose the method, and as long as the doctors have all decided that you are not forced by anybody, you're able to go ahead with it. So that country is like that. Not every country is like that. And so now it has become more complex. It has become more complex because we have learned new things. We didn't even know what stem cell was 30 years ago. We didn't know gene editing. We didn't know CRISPR-Cas. We didn't know AI. We didn't know how to do organ transplant. So all these new technologies bring together with it new ethical decision making. And in the ethical decision making, the doctors cannot make the decision themselves. They have to discuss it with the patient and maybe the patient's family. So, and is the patient has all the right, or does a family member have a right to object? All these things are part of ethics. Next one, please. So I'm going to discuss with you bioethics in the human subjects, in animals, and lab-based. That means neither human nor animals, just bench-based research. And I'm going to talk about agriculture, food, and climate change. So this is only a very small portion of the entire study or field of ethics and bioethics. No matter what field you work in, the principles remain the same. People do PhDs. I don't have a PhD in bioethics, but I know enough all the work that I have been doing. And I have served in the ethics committees, so I know what they look for. Can I go to the next slide, please? Subhash is still trying to see why he doesn't look. Yeah. Okay. So if you look at bioethics in human subjects and then animals, like I told you, and then in the research, that means neither animals nor human. It doesn't involve any, but then there's data sharing, there's emerging technologies, and there's AI. Next one. Okay, so let's talk first about human subjects. Are we clear up to now? And wait to the end for questions, I think, right? I think you prefer it like that. Several years ago, I think 80 years already now, when the World War II was happening, there were a lot of very unethical experiments that was done on human beings. There are several of them, and you can go and check on the internet, on data that's available. So they came up with something called the Nuremberg Tribunal. In this Nuremberg Tribunal, they said that if you want to perform experiments on humans, you have to get their informed consent. So see the word informed consent, I'll be talking to you about that. And in 1964, we came up with something called the Declaration of Helsinki. And that is, again, is to show the fundamental principle of respect for the individual. So the physician, the doctor, has a moral responsibility to respect the individual. So in most cultures, if the doctor says I need a surgery, it's up to me to decide. After talking to the doctor, whether I will take the surgery or not. I can decide not to. Then the doctor cannot just say, I'm not going to treat you because you decided not to, but they are still supposed to treat me with other options. That's my choice. And in 1978, there was something called the Belmont Report. And there are three fundamental ethical principles. One is respect for persons. We'll talk about it. Beneficence and justice. Can you go to the next slide? I've also given you all the links so you can look. Respect for persons is exactly what I said just now. I am a person and only I should be able to decide what is done to me. So the doctor can advise, the doctor can say, look, if you don't treat it, you may only live 6 months. If you treat it, this is the percentage chance that you live for 2 months. It's up to me to finally decide. So that's respect for the person, and they are autonomous. And you have to provide all the correct information, but not push them into choosing anything because it's beneficial to the hospital or to the doctor or anything like that. Beneficence is the other thing. Now, beneficence means you don't cause harm. And that you maximize the possible benefits and minimize the possible harm. And justice is fairness in distribution, which does not happen in this world, I can tell you already. When you say justice, fairness in distribution, there are a lot of clinical trials which are done in low-income countries because they don't have so many regulations and they don't have anybody to watch out for them. Somebody may be taking money or somebody may decide, okay, it's okay for you to do this experiment on my citizens. But at the end of that, is this benefit coming back to the citizen? One typical example is a vaccine for COVID. There was unequal distribution. Definitely the low income countries did not get it. So, but then the experiment involved people from different parts of the world. So that is the fairness. The next one, just let it be like this only, Subhash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I'm just giving you an example. So this is a typical example, okay? In 1966, this is a paper, you can go and read about it. I gave you some questions. I know you cannot answer because it's more difficult now in this, but there was a example where the patients were infused with live cancer cells. And they were told that they were receiving some cells without being told this is cancer, because they were trying to see if certain types of patients will take the cancer cell and get cancer, or certain type of treatment will prevent the cancer. In this, all three principles were not held: respect for a person, beneficence, and justice. So this is the question. You can think about it later. Next one. So in the Nuremberg principle, again, I told you voluntary consent, so I won't talk so much about it. And I put a star over there because I want to talk a little bit more about that. The experimental setting has to be adequate to protect the study participants. So in Africa, some very low income countries, they engage their citizens in doing clinical trials and other things. And sometimes it is for diseases that are more common over there, maybe vaccine for yellow fever or things like that. Not yellow fever, Ebola maybe. But is the setting in such a way that the person can come easily? Or is it in such a way that they have to spend a lot of money to get there? When they come there, are they going to get some other disease because it's so dirty? All these things you have to look at. There was one case that I remember that was in Singapore when we had some people come here to test a piece of equipment that was used for elderly people's activity to increase their muscular strength, but a person fell down. The person didn't even fall in the experimental room, but on the way, you're still responsible. The law doesn't say you have to give them medical cover and make sure that you pay for it, but out of goodwill we did, because they came there because we asked them to take part in the study. So these are all the things that you have to look out for if you're doing human subject research. Next one. And of course, you cannot give an incentive as a coercion. What I mean by that is you cannot give money and ask the person to participate. They do give money, but it cannot be as a coercion. It has to be a small amount, just enough to cover them for the trip or the food or whatever it is that they can come. But it is very, very clear that when you're using human subjects, you cannot incentivize them by giving a lot of money. That is unethical. Next one. Okay. Now, there should be something called a Human Subject Ethics Committee. Now, in the US and in Singapore, we call it the IRB, Institutional Review Board. But in many countries, including the UK, it's called Ethics Committee. I don't know what you call it in India. I cannot remember. And in India, this is the Compliance and Regulation for Drug Clinical Trials. I checked that out. So you may go there and see what type of committee you need to get approval from. Next one. Okay, so this committee must review all things that include human subjects. Even if it is only a review, you still have to send it to this review committee, because if you're doing, I do a lot of reviews, interviews, and when I publish the paper, they will ask me where is my ethics approval. So you need ethics approval, even if it is only questionnaire, But for that, it's called exempted or expedited review. Whereas if you're going to take the human and give them some medicine or treatment or do anything like that, then you have to have a proper and full review. Next one. So this is informed consent. Before I go to informed consent, the institutional review board or ethics committee must consist of people who are knowledgeable about all these experimental procedures. So let's say it is a cancer drug. Usually you will have a cancer person, or if you don't have a cancer person there, you can send it for external review. And then when the review comes back, the committee members can decide. And it is also required by law, at least it is over here and in US and in UK, that you must have a person who is from the community. That means from the public. Layman has to be involved in it so that they will watch out. At least one has to be involved, so they will watch out for the public. If you are using vulnerable subjects, which means children, prisoners, or people who are not capable of their own decisions, then they are vulnerable subjects, and people who are reviewing must understand these things. Now, prisoners are important because sometimes they do experiments with them. Experiments means not something that's going to kill them, but something that will be beneficial to the whole world. But because they are in a position where they cannot say no, they are called vulnerable subjects. Okay, next one. Okay, this is very important, and I find that in most countries, including in some parts of India, they don't consider this. What is a conflict of interest? Now, if I'm sitting in the ethics review committee and I am getting something from the company that's doing the trial, or it is of some use to me in some way to either money-wise or for professional development or anything, then I should not be involved in the review because I'm conflicted. I will not be fair. There's something else that is making me choose the decision this way or that way. So in Singapore, we are very strict about conflict of interest. And if you find out later that there was a conflict and they did not declare and they did not exclude themselves from the review process, then the punishment is quite severe. I find that in many developing regions, they don't think about it. And in some committees in India, I also have found that they don't think enough about it. And many others do, but some don't. Okay, next one. Okay, this again is a discussion. So if a PI asks a student to donate blood, but there's no documentation, no informed consent and nothing, can you give the blood or not? I don't know if you want to unmute and talk. But let me just tell you, they should not. Because first of all, there's no documentation. Secondly, the principal investigator cannot ask his own students because the students may feel forced to give the blood because they may feel otherwise the PI will not give them good marks or they will not pass their thesis or something like that. So it's not correct for a PI to take blood from his or her own group of students. But even if the ethics consent and all that is approved, usually here we do not allow the head of the department or PI to take blood or take samples from their own students. It has to be done from a person who is removed from the situation so that there will be no conflict. Next one. Okay, so this is the case study. I will very briefly say, I don't know how many minutes I have. Do you all use something called HeLa cells in your lab? It's a immortalized cell lines. When you're using in vitro studies, you use this to grow something in the cells. This HeLa cells came from a lady called Henrietta Lacks. She was a Black African American woman in the 1951. She died then. She had cancer, and while researchers were trying to make cell lines that are immortalized, you know, when you use cell lines, there's immortalized cell lines. They were not able to do it. Only her cancer grew. And they kept it very quiet, and they were using it, and they were using it and giving it to many, many research labs, but the family was not told about it. So later, they made sure that these things don't happen. If you take any samples from patient, the patient has to consent, and what you're using it for, also the patient has to consent. So the different types of consent, and you have to make sure you get the correct time. Next one. It was long ago when we didn't think about all this. Okay, This is another one. I don't know if you have heard about this. There was a scientist in China who used gene editing to develop embryos to protect them against HIV. And the children were born, but he did it without any approval from anybody. He was jailed, and I don't think he still has his license to practice. So you cannot be interfering in this way. These are the very, very difficult bioethical questions to answer. Can you gene edit a baby? We like to be fair skinned. Can you gene edit in such a way that everybody is born fair skinned, very intelligent? Can we do that? I don't think so, right? So I may say no, but somebody else may say yes. So this is a debate, it's ongoing. But if anybody wants to do anything like that, they must have a proper review and approval, very thorough, very stringent before anything can be allowed. Next one. Can you move? Okay. So animal ethics. I have done a lot of experiments with animals. It is quite sad because you're sacrificing them for you, but there is no other choice. You cannot go directly to humans. You have to study it in animals before you can give it to humans. We go by something called 3 R's. If you can use the same animal again, or if you can use another form like a cell culture or a computer systems, then don't use it, replace it with those things. Reduce the number and you refine it in such a way that you will cause minimum hurt to the animals. We have something, next one. We have something here. I'm sure you guys have it too if you're doing animal experiments. The next one, yeah. It's called Animal Use and Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. This is very important. In all places where you have animal research, they will use it. Next one. Okay, so there's something called Asian Federation of Laboratory Animal Science Association. India is also there, Thailand is there, Singapore is there, and many other countries are there. So these are people who are societies that look at animal ethics. Okay, next one. Okay, now we're going to general. First, I talked to you about the human, then I talked to you about the animal. So in general, gene editing and genetic research is definitely highly controversial, depending on what you do with it, yet we need it. If you have seen in the news, a young child is kind of cured of Huntington's disease using gene therapy, and it would not have been possible for this child to even have a life and would have died before the age of 3 or 4. Now the child has the opportunity to live. So technology is good, but then it must have a very rigorous ethics review before it can be used. Reproductive technologies, like I told you just now, neuroethics, the study of brain and consciousness, these have a lot of ethical dilemmas. What can you do? Can you alter a person's mental capacity? Can you alter a person's consciousness to make them think differently? It is all complicated and has to be reviewed very, very carefully. The other very big thing, which I will talk about a little bit later also, is data. We have collected large amounts of data, and what you should use it, but how do you use it? And who should be able to use it? These must be de-identified so that the person cannot be identified from whom the data was collected, and we should use it. In Singapore also, we have large data sets. The Ministry of Health in Singapore controls it. And if anybody wants to use, they have to provide a proper review and a proper reason why they want to use it. And they have to give the scientific proposal, and then they may allow them to use this data, because the data is collected and it's very important, but you have to be careful, and especially if it is identifiable. Identifiable means if you can say this blood pressure measurement belongs to Viji, then that's identifiable. But if my name is removed, then it is called de-identified. Okay, next one. Okay, generally, if you look at gene editing, the threat is it can be used for harmful purposes also, right? It can be done, I mean, if you don't like a group of people, you can do something to them to change their capacity to survive, for example. Gene drives are also very important. Recently, I know Singapore has relieved that, I can't remember the name of the company, the mosquitoes. To reduce the mosquito population, they make then mosquitoes sterile and release it. epigenetic manipulation. Epigenetics is a simply not yet understood field. It's not talking of the genetic sequence, not talking of the base pair sequence. It's talking about all the other things, the methylation, the other things that activate the gene. We all have the same gene sequence, right? But some genes are activated and some are not. So what does that? And if you know how to do it, can you cause harm, or will you only cause good? Or you may think you're causing good, but in the long term, there may be harm. So who is going to do this thorough investigation? It cannot be the person doing the research. It may even be that it cannot even be the institution doing the research. A central body may have to be involved who will look at it from an unbiased, as unbiased as possible. There's no such thing as complete unbiased. That is what you have to set up. Synthetic biology, AI. We'll talk a little bit more about AI later. You know what is do-it-yourself biology? If you go to Amazon, you can buy a CRISPR-Cas gene editing for $250 US. So can you take that and do something with it? If you are a science graduate, you can do something in your own house, right? And then misinformation, disinformation is a complete whole thing by itself, and publication of high consequence research. That means, next slide, I'm not sure what is my next slide. Okay, just go back to the previous one, sorry. So high consequence research means there was one research that they did in 2004 in Holland, where they took the H5N9 avian influenza, which at that time did not transmit mammal to mammal. They changed something and allowed it to transfer from mammal to mammal. Now you've suddenly made something that is very much more dangerous. Is that correct? Should you even do it? What is the benefit of that? These are the things. There was very big controversy about that. Now in Netherlands, if you want to do this kind of research and you want to publish it, it has to get approval at the national level. It's controlled by the law. Next one. Okay, so gene editing, gene therapy, like I told you just now, gene therapy has been tried for so long, but only now there has been success. In the last 2 months, they treated a Huntington's disease child with it. Next one. Okay, so if you want to, can you go to the previous one? Sorry, Subhash. So gene therapy can be different types. Gene therapy of somatic cells. Somatic cells mean not germ cells, not the egg and the embryo and the sperm, but just the cells in your body. That's a different thing, because it does not go from one generation to the other. That means if I do something like that to me, I cannot pass it to my child. Whereas stem cell, the next one, gene editing at the stem cell germ line is prohibited in most countries, in Singapore also. Because then if you do something to that, it can move to the next generation. And we don't know what will happen. How many generations will carry it? What will be the effect? We really don't know. And so even if there looks like there could be some benefit, we have to be extremely careful not to get involved in this without knowing it 100%. I mean, of course, there's no such thing as knowing 100%, so you have to make the most educated guess. Okay, next one. So how can a good, bad use of these technologies be distinguished? That's the question. I have no answers. I only have questions. Everybody else also has only questions. Who decides? And what is the high cost? How do you make it available to the not so wealthy people? That's the biggest problem, right? Only the rich people enjoy the benefits of all these research, and the others don't seem to have such a lot of benefit. I'm going to answer that question later. Is that okay, Bhupendra? In the end, do you mind?
Yeah, please.
Yes, okay. So could we, by using gene therapy, can we all start looking different? Can we all start behaving different? I don't know the answers to this. I don't think you know the answers to this too. But hopefully, when we do such things, we will have proper ethics review and we will have some knowledge of how to move forward. Next one. Okay, so this is the Huntington's I already told you. Next one. And again, I'm going to leave this to you to ask the question. Okay, next one. Okay, infectious disease. I told you already. Can you about the H5 avian influenza, which was changed to transmit from mammals to mammals. There was another one in which they looked at this mouse pox. This happened in Australia. Mouse pox is a virus that only affects mice, It doesn't affect human beings because there were so many rats and mice in that country. They didn't know how to kill it with a trap. So they tried to make this thing so that it will induce infertility in the mice. But what happened is it killed the mice even if they were vaccinated and even if they were resistant strain. So something happened to this mouse pox virus when it went inside the mice and changed and killed those strains that were thought to be resistant. So can you imagine? It's part of the smallpox family, right? There's only two places that has smallpox in the whole world. One is in Soviet Union and Russia now, and one is in the US. So because smallpox is eradicated from the world. So it's the only thing we have eradicated up to now. Everything else is not eradicated in spite of all this modern technology. And it was a deadly disease. So you have to be careful if you do genetic modification, and you must understand the risk and the benefit. Next one. Thank you, Bhupendra. Next one. This is the other one I told you about the Spanish flu. Do I have, how many more minutes do I have, Subhash?
Another 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll just give you this very quickly, this one, and then I'll move fast on it. You know, there was something called a Spanish flu. It's actually not a Spanish flu. The name is a misnomer, but it is a kind of flu that came in 1918. And in those days, people did not understand. And there was a World War I, and it killed millions of people. So when the people died, they did not have time to bury them deep inside. And a lot of them were in Northern Hemisphere in a very cold place. So they buried them closer to the crust of the earth in what is called the permafrost. And because it's so cold and because it was iced, the bodies of these people were well preserved, and they could take out and they could reconstitute the Spanish flu and find the gene sequence of the Spanish flu. Do you also know that there are websites, the NIH NCBI website, where if you go, you don't even have to register or have a login. You can go and ask for the sequence of smallpox and they will give you. Why do they do that? They do that because they think we will work ethically. Yes, most of us, 98% of us are ethically bound, but there could be a few who are not, and those are the ones that we have to convert into our way of thinking. Next one. So dual use research is a very important thing, also very much part of ethics. All these things that I told you about the mouse pox and the changing a virus to make it gain a function, make it more virulent, make it escape the vaccine, all these things are called dual use research of concern. It is a very big deal in most developed countries. In the US and in Singapore, there's a special committee. I know you have it too for genetic modification. So that committee has to approve that these research is allowed. Otherwise, you will not be able to do. And if somebody does it surreptitiously without getting approval, without anybody knowing, that person's license to work can be removed, and that person should not be working in a university after that, because knowingly they did it. But of course, you must train the people and tell them these are the things you can and cannot do. Next one. Training is these are all the documents that you can check. Next one. So I come to probably the last few. I think I have something on AI. Just like we have the Animal Ethics Committee and we have the Human Ethics Committee, there's something called the Institutional Biosafety Committee. Now, if you're doing research in your lab, it does not go to an ethics committee unless you use animals or you do something with humans. Then the Biosafety Committee is the one who looks to see whether what you're doing is ethical. Is the risk far outweighing, the benefit far outweighing the risk? If the risk is high and is not worth the benefit, that research should not be allowed. Next one. So to be in this committee itself, you need to have training. We also run that training. How to train people in the ethics committee. How do they review? What should they look for? The ethics committee, the biosafety committee is in charge of all the biological risks under them. If this is your institution, you must have a bioethics committee, and they must review all the work that you do, including the training, including disciplinary action when needed. I'm not a great fan of disciplinary action because sometimes people do it without knowing. The training is very, very important, and also incident reporting. My next paper is going to be about that. You can check me on LinkedIn. I'll put it up when it's published. Okay, next one. So this again, I'm not going to waste too much time on that. Let's go to the next one because I want to give more time for questions. Let's move this. You can read this. In Singapore, we have something called genetic modification approval. It's a national body. Singapore is a small country, as you know. So there's only one body. Anybody who wants to do any genetic modification needs to make sure that this committee approves it. Certain things are exempt that you don't have to get approval, but the biosafety committee has to approve. Next one. Okay, this is simple. Okay, just move. This is just questions for y'all. You can use these questions later on. Again, DURC is genetic modification. Who will approve it? And after you approve, the PI and the research people should be aware that if a new risk surfaces while they are doing research, they need to stop the research and check to see what are the how do you control it, and not just continue to do it. Next one. I'm trying to, okay. Now I'm going to talk very quickly about data sharing in the next 5 minutes. We have a lot of data in this world, a lot. In fact, artificial intelligence is using so much space that it is providing a huge carbon. One side we are saying carbon footprint is not good, and the other side we all use AI a lot, okay? So what are the challenges? Is everybody collecting it in the same way? Is there de-identification process? Does the human subject know that it will be stored somewhere? And who has access? Otherwise, data privacy will be eroded. And ethics of sharing and cybersecurity. Next one, please. Thank you for all the hearts and the claps. I think they're saying you should stop talking. That's the meaning of that. So you have to trust your partners and share very carefully. And cyber risks. I was doing a training in India, and they told me they have an ISO, ISO 25000 series certification for their cyber systems. So they said nobody can penetrate. That's not true. Even if you have an ISO, people can penetrate. You have to be mindful, you have to be watchful, and you have to make sure that you keep on. It's like, if you make some system to make your computer systems impenetrable, the guys who want to penetrate are learning more. So it's a constant battle between the good and evil. As soon as the good people try to figure out how to fix it, the bad people try to. So it's always going to be on, and just because you have ISO, it doesn't mean you're safe. Next one. Artificial intelligence is a huge thing. There are questions about that, so let's talk about that rather than over here, okay? And I don't even profess to know enough. I only know a small amount of it that I use. It's a whole different ball game, and you need to call somebody else to give a talk on that. Next one. And if that's one of the things you want to talk about, I do have people who may be willing to talk. So this is, again, it's everybody's responsibility, top to bottom, policymakers, general public, people, and so on and so forth. So you cannot say that there's no rule about this, so I don't care, I'm going to do whatever I want. You also have the ethical responsibility to do the right thing, and training, education, awareness building is what you need to have. Next one, please. Okay, so again, this one is to say, how do you go forward? Many of us are struggling with this. So there is no global framework yet. Hopefully there will be, but nobody can agree. You and I cannot agree. How can countries agree with each other? They're always fighting with each other. So I don't know if there will be such standards. We'll see. At the national level, there must be legislation. At the institutional level, there must be policy. And at the people level, there must be training and awareness building, and the commitment that ethics is everybody's responsibility. I think that brings me to the last slide. Next one, please. Okay, so this is, I believe in the people. For me, I have always been a people person, and I believe that most people do not want to cause harm to anybody. But if we keep on finding fault with them, then they will think, why should I bother? You're not trusting me anyway. So important thing is to build the rapport, build the trust, and believe in the people. That one is in Brazil, where a person has put many mosaics from different parts of the world on the steps, and it's a very famous landmark in Brazil. So I end with that, and I'll wait for questions. Also, you have Subhash has sent me some questions. I'll leave it to you all how you want to do it. I hope that was useful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Viji, for that insightful and inspiring presentation. You have given us a deeper understanding of the importance of bioethics. We will now move into the interactive Q&A session. Participants, please post your questions in the chat box or use the raise hand option if you'd like to speak. While we wait for your questions, I will begin with a few questions to get us started. So the first question is, in the context of increasing digitalization and AI in healthcare research, what emerging ethical challenges do you foresee, especially related to patient data privacy and informed consent?
Okay, thank you for that. Now, everybody is very clever, right? Subhash already sent me some questions. I hope you'll ask some other questions to make me think. But I did check this and I did rack my brain to see what I think. Okay, so when you look at AI in healthcare research, right? That's what you're talking about. One of the big thing is the AI is only as clever as the data it has access to. Am I right? It cannot, it's not like human beings. It cannot discern something. So if the data lacks in a particular kind of healthcare situation, like rare diseases or diseases that are not common, the AI is not going to know. And I use AI, but very limited, because quite often in my field, I find that is not correct. So I will still go and search articles and things like that. So this representation of the data is very important. So certain things are well represented and maybe AI is good, certain other things are not good. The other thing is, who's accountable for the decisions made by AI? So if you look at healthcare, if you go and see a doctor and the doctor doesn't know, the doctor uses ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever and finds the answer to a disease that I may have and gives me the answer from AI, will I trust the AI or will I prefer the doctor to make his own judgment? That is a question a patient must ask. So how much of the AI can you completely depend on? I'll answer that question later on, the question that is in the chat room. And also data leaks. You have to be very, very careful. People are hacking left, right, and center. So what happened to the data that's leaked? So what happens now is, I don't know where to find the chat, because I don't normally use this. So can you read? There are a few questions in the chat. Alternatively, you can just raise your hand and ask the question, or you have to read for me from the chat because I don't know where the chat is. Sanya, can you just read the chat?
Yes, ma'am, I'm reading. Ma'am, the question is, when the scientists genetically modify infectious agents for research, what are the main ethical and safety concerns we should keep in mind as students?
Okay. So if you are a student, it's always more difficult because you are the lowest of the lowest person, right? You don't have any power. And your PI may want to do certain things. What you can do is limited. What I mean by that is, in real life situation, you are there studying, you're doing a PhD, you can discuss with your PI or your lab head or whoever if they are amenable to discussion, if they are open to discussion. But if they're not, you may not have much of a choice. But the main problem is, or you can go to the vice chancellor or somebody else if you think that is very dangerous. It has its own problems because we all have cultural bias, right? I mean, it happens everywhere, including Singapore. You cannot challenge your bosses so easily. The problem with altering is, are you making a new monster? We had one monster called SARS-CoV-2. But by modifying it, are you making it a more tame monster or more aggressive monster? That's the question. And how do you know? Okay, so you can do it under very controlled circumstances. If you can control the lab environment, you can have a high containment lab, extremely well contained. It is possible to try, to see, because it may help. If you make a new virus that is less virulent, you can use that to make vaccines. And you can work with it in the normal lab. So it is important, but you have to mitigate the risk. Next one.
Ma'am, I do have some more questions. Human factors play a major role in research quality and safety. How can institutions integrate human factors principles into training programs to strengthen ethical research practice?
Okay. Now, human factors is a very loose term that we use without understanding anything about it. Okay. We are a factor in everything. Uh, I have published papers on this. Again, you go to the LinkedIn page, you can find it. One of the things, right? When we work in a lab, what do? We come up with standard operating procedures. Do you all have standard operating procedures? How many microliters of what to add, how many pairs of gloves to wear, you must wear your lab coat, you must check out your lab coat. That's called a standard operating procedure. The standard operating procedure is for safety as well as for productivity. Because in research, if your research output is not reproducible, then it's not a good research. That reproducibility is a very important factor in research, because if you are doing a cancer drug, for example, and you are using it in cell line and it is reducing the cancer load, another lab should be able to show the same thing. If they're not able to, that means there may be something wrong with the way you're doing, or maybe you manipulated the data. So reproducibility is very important. So when a human factor, human is involved in understanding the SOP and following the SOP, what happens is they will do something to make little changes. Those little changes are actually considered to be good in modern safety science, because they are tweaking it to make it more productive and more safe. Yes, you have to wear lab coat. Yes, you have to wear this. But if you're working with animals, for example, what do you do if the animal escapes? The animal doesn't understand SOP. So you have to quick think. And when you quick think, that is a human factor that prevents an accident or an unethical decision. But the thing that I find very sad everywhere in the world, including Singapore, is we don't learn from this. Even if you did something to salvage the situation and make it better, we are scared to talk about it. They will say, why didn't you follow the SOP? But by not following the SOP, you did something good. Why can't you talk about it? That's what they do in aviation. They talk about it. Whereas we are not in that stage environment. Even in Singapore, we are not in that stage. And that is a sad thing. Everywhere, every country, even US and every other country, we have not quite come to be able to talk openly about how we dealt with that difficult situation so that other people can learn. Okay, any more?
Thank you for shedding light on the significance of human factors. Let's now explore an area where your experience is especially rich. The next question is, biorisk management and bioethics often intersect. Could you elaborate on how ethical decision-making influences risk assessment and mitigation in biomedical research settings?
Okay, this is my favorite topic. So I'll give you an example. Okay, I will. Do you know what is radioisotopes? You have worked with radioisotopes. So there are two different examples, real life examples, in different parts of the world. And in one part, there was a lady, a staff, I shouldn't say lady or man, a worker in the lab who is labeled their cells with radioisotope. And they must move from that lab to another lab to read it, because the machine to read it, X-ray or what is that called? The one that reads the isotope. I cannot remember what it is.
Geiger counter.
Yeah, that's not the Geiger counter, the big one. What do you call it? The Geiger counter? You can hold it in your hand, right? Never mind. You put it in the vials and then it will read. So that is a big one, and you cannot keep it everywhere because it's expensive. So they have to move to another lab, to another building. She didn't realize that there was a leak in her container, in the tubes. And she did not pack it correctly, perhaps because she's never had a leak before, and it leaked all over the place until she reached there. She realized there was a leak. She told her boss. She cordoned off the area, and she and her colleagues went and cleaned up, because you use detergent to clean up to reduce the radioactivity as much as possible. And they cordoned off until the baseline radioactive was okay for people to walk in that street. She was commended for it. Everybody learned, everybody talked about it, everybody, the information was spread. and she was actually praised for admitting it. That is one scenario, real scenario. In another scenario, there was a person. The radioactive material comes in something called, it's a container, which is a lead-lined container. We call it a pig. I don't know what you call it over there. It's a small container. The container will be delivered at the loading bay of that institution. And when it came, and this is a special delivery man and a company that makes radioisotopes. Some of them are very short life, only 6 hours, so they have to deliver very quickly. There was a new staff, and the staff forgot to wear gloves and collected this. The outside of the container is not supposed to be contaminated. But after the staff came back to the lab, as is a protocol, she examined her hands with the Geiger counter. The other one is called the scintillation counter, by the way. It's a big equipment, so I just remembered. So she examined her hands in the Geiger counter, and she found that she was contaminated. She forgot to wear gloves. So she immediately decontaminated. Radioisotope material is not easy to decontaminate. You have to, it will never stop being radioactive active unless the half-life passes. It's not like bacteria where you can put bleach or alcohol and remove it. You can't. So they use detergent. So she made sure she did all that, and then she reported it. In that same institution, she was treated quite severely because she forgot to wear the gloves. But what happened was, because she forgot to wear the gloves, it was found that the delivery, this company that makes the radioisotope is not packing properly and allowing the outside to be contaminated. This was brought to their attention, and they took action, and they made sure that the outside of the container is not contaminated, because it will contaminate everybody along the way. So even though she did not wear gloves by mistake, because that person reported it, something good came of that. In that institution, that person was not well treated. So it is similar institutions. All of them are in the same country. I don't want to say which country, in some other country. And yet they're so different. So this is the culture. This is the conflict between ethics and safety and security. The ethical response would have been to understand that they did not do it on purpose. They did it, they owned up, so you need to give them credit for it. I'm very passionate about this. Okay, I hope that helped. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That was very insightful. Hence, the next question is, many young researchers struggle with gray areas and ethical dilemmas, such as data manipulation, pressures, or authorship disputes. What guidance would you offer to early career researchers facing such situations?
Okay. Recently, I did a workshop where it was in-person workshop, and we have breakout sessions. So I will look for case studies for them to talk about. One case study, which I will send to Subhash later on, and he can share it with you, is about stealing authorship. I'm giving you one particular example, okay? So when you say early career, PhDs, postdocs, and all that early career, right? So there is a situation in Denmark. It's openly on the internet, so I can say the name of the country. It's okay. This is a PhD student. Even her name is written in the internet. You can see it. This student boss took some freebies from somebody else, whether it was money or favor or what, we don't know. And they gave authorship to that person, even though the person did not do anything. So it is a sale of authorship. It happens in the best, it doesn't matter low income, high income, good, every country and every place, they have the equal number of ethical people and unethical people. Okay, there's no difference. So this student, she has launched something called Please Don't Steal My Work campaign. I'll send the link to Subhash and he can share it with you. So the difficulty is, how do you antagonize your boss? One way these people did was they joined forces. So if it is one PhD student who antagonizes one boss, that PhD student may be penalized. But if it's a whole lot of them, they have the proof, they have the information, and they all go together, you can't possibly penalize everybody. In that group of supervisors, there will be 5 or 6 ethical people and 5 or 6 unethical people. So it's hoped that the voice of the ethical people will be louder than the voices of the unethical people. I'm only giving you real life examples. I don't know what else to do because it's a very broad topic and very difficult.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for highlighting those practical strategies for emerging researchers. Let's broaden the conversation to the global stage. With the rise of international and multi-site collaborations, how can research teams ensure ethical alignment across countries with different regulations and cultural perspectives?
I talked about this earlier on. So there are cultural differences. Okay, there are even papers about it. So in the Middle Eastern region, where women have to wear a headscarf, how do they go inside the lab? They have to make sure they protect themselves. They worked it out perfectly. You don't have to tell them not to wear the headscarf. They wear the headscarf, but they make sure that they have a disposable cover on top specifically made for their country. So you have to understand those kind of cultural differences, sit with the people in that culture, and they will come up with very good explanations as to how to do it. So that's one thing. The other thing that you have to watch out for very carefully is developed nations, or I should say high income nations who have more money and therefore more power, often exploits people in the low and middle income countries. There was one case in Philippines where there was a vaccination for dengue. It's called dengue vax, which was used for children. There was a lot of fraud and everything involved in that. And then, of course, they stopped it. Children died because dengue vax cannot be given to a person who's already been infected with dengue one time. There are 4 types of dengue. You can get infected by each of them. When you get infected with one, you have lifelong immunity, but the other 3 you can still get. So if you've already had a dengue infection, you cannot give this vaccination. All the dengue vaccination are like that because they have not found a dengue vaccination yet, which can be given to anybody. So children died. And then when all these things, of course, most of them are from the poorer neighborhoods. And then, of course, the government got involved. And there was a lot of other dishonesty and fraud and all that. So exploitation is a very important thing across cultures. You have to be very careful about that. The other thing is, even in India, there was one meningococcal vaccine that was that caused a lot of death, and people did. Of course, they stopped it eventually. Okay, so I'm just giving you 2 examples. So there is another very important thing. So let's say Sanya is doing a research, and Sanya is the professor in that university. You'll become professor one day. So in that university, and she is recruiting participants for her research. Now, if she herself goes and talks to the people, she's a professor. The people may feel very intimidated by her high stature, and they may not be able to say no, even though they don't want to take part in it. So I told you in the beginning, they must have the complete independence to refuse. So you need to ask somebody else, not somebody who's at your level, number one. Number two, the other very common thing is often people who do large scale questionnaire research work kind of things, they use service providers. There are some service providers who go out and do the questioning. They are trained to do the questioning. So they will say, this is my research question. This is the thing. Please go and question 100 people. Now, what happens in some of these, because they have been used for multiple such things, the subject may get annoyed because again and again, you're coming and asking me the same thing. So it's good to have a different person and not the same person who goes and asks again and again. And then the researcher may feel angry. And the subject may feel angry. And if the subject feels angry, then you will get a skewed data. Your data must be equally distributed among a population for you to get good data to analyze. If you have, if you have made half the population angry, then you will get the population that is skewed. So you have to be careful about all these things. And okay, that answers that. You have any more questions, or are we done for time?
Yes, ma'am, I do have. 1 second, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The question is, in a clinical or community-based research, vulnerable populations are involved. What safeguards should researchers prioritize? I talked about vulnerable population just now, right? Earlier on in my slides. The ethics committee has a very strong role. So what they also do is, if it's children below the age of 21 in Singapore, I don't know the age in India, are not allowed to give their own consent children or people below the age of 21. So if you're over 21, you can completely give your own consent. If you're less than 21, your parent or legal guardian or somebody has to say. But a child who is 8 years old should be able to make a decision by themselves, although it's not legal. So that's called accent. Even if the 8-year-old child's mother or father agree for this child to be enrolled in this clinical trial because they think it is worth for them and for the community and for medical treatment for the future, the child can still say no. So you have to record the accent from the child as well as the parents. So that is how you make sure that children are not manipulated because they're vulnerable subjects. Similarly with prisons. Prisoners are very vulnerable subjects because they may feel coerced. The prison guard may go and say, hey, you want to do it or not? What will they do? They may have to say yes. They may not dare to say no. So those things, they are given extra review, and the people who review those are specially trained to review such things. It can't be just the normal group. So if your ethics committee doesn't have those group, you can send it for outside review and see what they say. And what is in the informed consent? The patient has to sign the consent, the patient or the subject, but the information you provide, what is this about? How many times do you have to come? What kind of questions will you ask? And how about if you feel that at the halfway through the study, you don't want to be a part, you can withdraw and all your information will be taken out. What you have already collected may be used, new ones may not be. It depends on the study. Another thing very important is if you're talking about culturally awkward things like sexuality, if you're talking about suppression, if you're talking about gay and LGBT rights, then you have to be even more careful. In all these things, the review is very important. The ethics review without a conflict of interest person must be done thoroughly, and people will ask you for this. When you publish your paper, they will ask you for this. Publishers always ask, who did your ethics? And they can even ask, this is a vulnerable subject. Can I look at the whole ethics process? They can ask for that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Viji, for emphasizing the importance of safeguarding participants, especially those most at risk. As we near the concluding part of our dialogue, we'd like to look ahead. And the next question is, as a consultant and academic working closely with global teams, what future trends in bioethics should students and researchers prepare for over the next decade?
That is a very difficult question to answer. I'm going to try because it's not a know-it-all answer. It'll keep changing. First of all, AI is one big problem. Everybody talks about AI. Do you know? Have you in Netflix? There is one series. Sometimes like my memory fails me. I cannot remember the name, but they used AI to look for chemical material that can cause harm. They looked for toxic chemical material. Do any of you remember the name of this? I will send all this through in Subhash's WhatsApp. Then he will share it with you. It's there. That's how they found. Did they find sarin? Right? They found it using the large databases. There are large databases of chemical formula, and what is the function? What's the physiology of these? Just like they have large databases of genes, and what is the physiology? What can it do? So you can look at it and you can ask AI to come up with something that can cause harm. So AI is a very big problem. And if you come up with something in your search for something that is beneficial, what do you do with that? Do you tell somebody? There must be a system for a student to tell somebody. And that person tell somebody else to control it? I don't know the answer, but somebody should be told, right? The other thing is, we don't teach ethics in the early stages. We don't teach ethics in school. We don't teach, I'm very glad you're all undergraduates and you're coming to this talk, but it is not a topic. And I think it should be a topic. It should be a topic that people are taught and reminded over and over again, because sometimes in the hurry to get good results, to hurry to move forward in your career, you may not even know you're doing something unethical. Unintentionally, you may do it. So it's good to have these trainings. to have sessions, discussions, and make it part of safety and every other kind of training, and to remind each other. Above all, data security is very important. Data must be secure. Misinformation, disinformation. Are you all part of WhatsApp group? I don't have WhatsApp group because they send all sorts of nonsense. Nobody verifies anything. Everybody's a professor in that WhatsApp group. And so you have to be careful. Don't send it to everybody else. It is your ethical responsibility not to send it without verification. That is ethics, very basic ethics. Okay.
Hello, fellow students and esteemed participants. Do you have any questions? Please unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Shubham Sharma, you have raised your hand, is it?
Please unmute yourself, Shubham Sharma.
Ma'am, I have a simple question. Ma'am, can you please highlight different career opportunities in bioethics?
Yeah, so there are definitely careers in bioethics in Singapore and in many, many parts of the world. There may be bioethics associations they have here. Again, I can send some information to Subhash and he will share it with you all. There is a master's in bioethics. There is a PhD. So if this is where you want to go, then you should go. And if you want to do something like that in today's world, look for emerging technologies and AI. AI will dominate for the next 10, 15 years. Then we'll get bored and go on to the next one, just like .com. So after some time, the AI will not give you anything new because there's only so much data over there, right? AI can only be as good as the data. It cannot do anything else. So that's one good way to do. Join some societies. And there are lots of courses online. I will again send all this information to Subhash, maybe tomorrow only because today I have another meeting after this. So I will send it to Subhash. You go and check online. It's free. You register and you can do it at your pace. It's I learn a lot from those, Coursera and various things. You can choose bioethics course, you can choose biosafety course, you can choose many things. And then it makes you think. But if you really want to be in the field of bioethics, you can do a post-graduation in bioethics, either a master's or PhD.
Anyone else?
It's a good field to be in. Also getting saturated though.
Do you guys have any questions?
Everybody's very tired already. Okay. If not, may I thank you for all. I'm really, really impressed with what you all have done and how Subhash and the Vice Chancellor and all have provided you with the guidance and with the leadership. Leadership is very important, but you are also very important because without you, who are we going to lead, right? So you are very important and it must be a good two-way relationship. I have worked with Subhash before. He's open to new ideas and things. And so please talk. Talking is very important. Communication is an important scheme. Without being scared of what you say, without blaming, you may be having a different opinion. It's okay. You must have many different opinions. That's fine. And that's how we learn. And I will also share with Subhash some other topics. And if you like any of them, I have people who may be willing to talk.
We wish we could have more time, but we don't.
We'll have time, yeah. There'll be opportunities somewhere.
Okay. Dear fellow students and esteemed participants, that brings us to the close of a truly enriching session. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Viji for sharing her thoughts with us today. A big thank you as well to all the participants for your engagement and thoughtful questions. With that, I now hand the session back to our MC, Mr. Shubham. Mr. Shubham, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanya, for effectively moderating the session. Distinguished guests and fellow students, as we draw this exciting session to a close, now I invite Ms. Garima Solanki to deliver a vote of thanks on the behalf of the organizing committee. Ms. Garima, over to you.
A very warm good evening to everyone. As we draw this insightful session of BioConnect webinar series to a close, it's my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the entire organizing team of this program. We begin by expressing our heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Harish Rao, for taking the time out of his busy schedule to deliver opening remark for this program. A special note of thanks to our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Vijayan, for delivering a thought-provoking talk on bioethics and healthcare research. Ma'am, your insights have broadened our academic perspective and ignited our curiosity to explore real-world solutions to biotechnology. We extend our deep appreciation to our mentor and guiding light, Professor Dr. Subhash J. Bore, Head of CSRT, for his unwavering support and encouragement of student-led initiative like this one. Sir, your vision and leadership continue to inspire us to aim higher. A heartfelt thank you goes to our moderator, Ms. Sania Rajan, for smoothly steering the session and encouraging meaningful dialogue. We also sincerely thank our organizing committee chairperson, Mr. Nishal Singh Rathore, and the committee member. Your dedication and behind the scene effort have been instrumental in making today's event a success. To all our enthusiastic participants and attendees, thank you. Your presence and engagement bring this platform to a life and motivated us to keep growing and learning together. Today, we have completed 11th edition of BioConnect webinar series. The BioConnect webinar series is envisioned as vibrant student-led platform where ideas ignite innovation, where students involve into leaders, and where knowledge translates into meaningful action. We hope today's session was as enriching for you as it was for us, and we look forward to welcoming you to future chapters of the BioConnect webinar series for the student by the student. Before we formally conclude, we would like to offer our special thanks to our university management for their full support to this program. Esteemed participants, thank you once again for being with us today. May your journey be filled with curiosity, innovation, and meaningful discoveries. Wishing you all a pleasant evening. Now, I will hand it back to our MC, Mr. Shubham Sharma. Shubham Sharma, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garima. Once again, thank you to everyone who joined us today, especially our speaker, vice chancellor, mentor, and participants. It was a great session today. Before ending this session, we would like to hear feedback from all the participants. The post-webinar survey link is posted in the chat box. We promise that the evaluation survey will not take more than 2 minutes. Your feedback will be greatly appreciated. We will wait for 3 minutes to let the participant complete the feedback form. We hope you all have completed the feedback form. Please note that your e-certificate will be sent to your registered email ID shortly. We sincerely thank you once again for being the part of this enriching session. We look forward to welcoming you to our next BioConnect webinar very soon. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep connecting. This is Shubham Sharma signing off on the behalf of Students Team People's University. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.